Good morning. It is Sunday, April 18th, and this is My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman, video number 34. And this one is about my psychic coaching. As you know or may know, on my last video, I said, who would be interested in a video? And people said, oh yeah, I'd really like a video to hear more about your psychic coaching because it's different than reading. So that's what this is about today, and it's not about politics, and you might be happy about that. Sometimes I'm happy not to talk about politics. It's like refreshing. Maybe Sunday should be a no politics day, so it's like a cleansing. So here we go. As I said, my name is Carrie Freeman. I get a lot of information through what I call my left ear, comes in my left side, and I'm a change agent. I help people change and solve problems. I do psychic coaching, which I'm going to talk about today, and I do therapeutic hypnosis, and I've been doing that for 20 years. I have an artistic background. I write. I've written 2 books, working on a big article right now, and so I help writers and performers because I have this whole background because I'm not 20 years old. I've been around, done a lot of stuff, learned a lot of things. So how we begin? The deep breath. I always like to do that now. So I'm going to share stories of actual readings, things I predicted, and stories about clients. I'm not going to talk about any individuals. Everybody gets confidentiality that works with me. So how I start this is to say basically I assist people in healing their unanswered questions. I provide spiritual roadmap and solutions. I evaluate people, personalities remotely. So if you're talking about your husband or sister, I start to pick up who they are and what their issues are. That happens all the time. And then I help with clarity around relationships, events, career, and sometimes medical. I'm going to talk a little bit about the medical stuff, but I have been told YouTube doesn't like this, so I want to be very, very careful. I'm going to explain to you the typical psychic coaching session with me because it's a little different. I begin, my computer did this, it blew things up to like 30, so I'm going to get the font back. Sorry about that. This happens from time to time. So here we go. Let's get this font back to a reasonable font. Okay. I begin a dialogue with the client. I don't start telling them stuff. I explore what's going on. I need to hear actually what's going on. That's what's a little different. And when I'm hearing what's going on, I access information, my left ear kicks in. And then the insights and the hits begin to happen. I begin to understand, oh, I see the picture. I know what they need to do. I want to direct them in this. So I get very clear information 98% of the time. There is no psychic, that gets 100%. No psychic. So this includes people that you may be discussing with me, a loved one, a child, a friend, and I pick up who they are and I get the story. So I help clients make big decisions or craft a decision. And I'm going to give you examples of that in a little bit about how, well, you'll get it. I'm going to give you examples in a little bit. So the reading is really talking. And from there, the information and the guidance for me are revealed. Now, in advance of me doing a psychic coaching session with you, I get your birthday and I do numerology. I like to know what number you're born under, and I like to know what number you're in your personal year because it really gives me information about the energy of your current year and how things that may affect the changes that you need or require. And then I will do runes. sometimes. But when I do runes, how do I put this? They take a little while. So a lot of times I'll do runes in advance, because to lay out 3 runes and go over that rune story is a little time consuming, and I don't think it's good to do it on camera. But the runes are part of this jumping off process. So sometimes I call the psychic coaching tell therapy, because I hear from the client and then I tell, okay, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to handle this person. This is the approach, blah, blah, blah. Now let me interrupt. And by the way, the advanced work, the numerology, which I do before I even say hello to you, is part of the fee. So I put in time before we actually spend time together. Now I want to say something about the hypnotherapy, because I'm doing a lot of hypnotherapy sessions for people. I will often get a hit in hypnotherapy, but that's not a promise, but I will. And if I get that hit, I will share with my hypnotherapy client, like a current client right now that comes to me from my left ear, found me through my left ear. We're really focusing on her and a big, big healing. But I understand a business venture that her husband is approaching. And I told her last session, this is going to fly. Your husband's business deal is going to fly. So that was, it's really good to give people happy feedback, happy. So I'm going to give you some stories, because I think people really like to hear stories, things that have happened. And all of these stories were before I came up with my left ear. So I began to look back on how long this has been operating in me. My left ear didn't show itself, present itself, until I decided to put up this YouTube channel. And then boom, it came to me like lightning. And then I knew it was the right thing, because it came so immediately. I'm going to start with a few medical stories that are in the past. I worked with a woman at a production company, wonderful woman, we're still in touch, young woman, and she came in one day with a pain in her side, and she was really uncomfortable, and I said, I think it's your appendix. And she went to the doctor, and the doctor took blood tests, and he said, no, it's not your appendix. She came back to the office. I was really surprised. But the pain wouldn't go away. Then she went to her urologist, and he said, no, it's not appendix. She came back to the office, and she was getting worse. And I said, Paula, it's your appendix. Cut to, she was rushed to the hospital. Her appendix burst. She was within a few hours of dying, because so much poison escaped into her system, and she had a 6-week recovery. Pretty amazing. Worked with a woman named Laura, and I walked into a conference room for a big meeting. I looked at Laura. I went, oh my God, Laura's pregnant. But she had not announced it. Nobody knew. I just went, oh, she's pregnant. I looked at her face. 2 days later, she announced it. She was pregnant. When I worked at Universal Studios in production, I was in charge of a company that's doing very well called the New York Film Academy. And I would set up their shoots and their locations. I got to know all their teachers, instructors. And one of the instructors walked up to me one day, Adam, and he's coughing and he's sick and he doesn't look well. And I said, oh my God, what's wrong with you? And he said, I don't know, it's some kind of congestion. And I said, Adam, you've got pneumonia. And he went, no, the doctor said it's not pneumonia. And I said, you need to check it out. I think you've got pneumonia. And he had pneumonia. I had a client who came to me. She was a beautiful woman with a happy marriage, and she had my brain isn't going. She had a fetus and lost it. So she had a miscarriage, couldn't think of the word miscarriage. And she was very traumatized about having the next baby, but very much wanted the next baby and was not getting pregnant. So she came to me for fertility. And you know, you can never guarantee that, but we went to work and she walked in on the third session and I looked at her and I went, oh, I wonder if she's pregnant. So she sat down and she said, I'm really tired today. I was up all night. There was like this vibration going through me and I couldn't settle down. So privately, my left ear thought, well, that's the fetus. That's the fetus. The fetus came in and she's pregnant. But I didn't say anything because, of course, that would have been very just an unconscious thing to do. Just not the right thing to do. Set her up, you know. So she comes in for the next and she goes, I'm pregnant. And I said, that's great. And then she said, did you know? And I went, yeah, I knew last week, but I just couldn't say anything. It wouldn't have been professional of me. That was happy. A really healthy baby was born. When I worked again at the studio, there was, you know, of course the studio has an enormous electric department, lights, all that. And there was a really great guy who was sort of the assistant. He ran the department. And I looked at him one day and I went, oh my God, I think he's got cancer and I think he's dying. And in fact, he did die. And he hadn't announced the cancer yet. Sometimes this happens. I just look at people and I know this stuff. I dated an actor. He was a very successful actor, but not like a movie star, but he was really successful. Like if you saw his picture, you'd go, oh my God, I've seen him in a million movies. And he was very unusual for me to do this because he smoked, and I don't like being around smokers. And he was overweight, impossibly smart and charming. So he's in my living room and he's saying, I really want to lose this weight. So I said, you should go to San Diego to the Optimum Health Institute and go on their sort of special juice diets and get on that treadmill, and then you'd love this place. So he decided to go. He looked it up and I said, why don't you go get a stress test before you go down to San Diego? He said, no, I'm really fat and I don't want to get a stress test. And I said, you really should go get a stress test. And he didn't want to. And he went down to San Diego and I got a phone call from a girlfriend and she said, are you sitting down? I said, well, I am now. What's going on? And she said, he passed away. And he died on a treadmill. That was a really hard one to get past. That was really hard. I told him to go there. I found out later that other people told him it was a great place. Also, the problem was he did not listen to me and get the stress test. So my friend, Chrissy, just had a friend who died, normal age, you know, older. And she tells me the whole story, and she tells me this story and that story, and they couldn't find this and they couldn't find that. And then finally she died, and I'm listening to her on the phone, and I went, Chrissy, she had cancer. They didn't find cancer? And she said, well, you're right. She had ovarian cancer and they never found it. So those are some of the stories. Now I'm going to get into the non-medical stuff. I worked 8 years as a hypnotherapist at a drug and alcohol rehab facility. And in fact, I never even wanted to work there, but they called me for an interview and they gave me the job. And so all of a sudden, I'm 8 years in Malibu working with drug addicts, alcoholics, very serious stuff. But the owner was very much like the former guy, 45. He was tall and blonde, blue-eyed, very Aryan looking, and he had a son who was also very Aryan looking. And that's how I came to understand the former guy, because this man was very similar. He was into real estate. He had a lot of money. People sued him all the time, and he fired people all the time. So I was there for 8 years, and I'm watching the firing, and I'm watching just the chaotic atmosphere around there. And now, numerology speaking, I come into my 9 year. And 9 is like the end of a cycle. When you finish 9, you start a whole new cycle. So I'm driving down Pacific Coast Highway, and my left ear said, you know, you better clean out your office because you're not going to survive the number 9 year. I had stopped attending meetings because he was not paying people for the meetings, and it was illegal. So he didn't like that, just like Trump wouldn't have liked it. And I cleaned out my office. I took everything off the walls. Everything that could be in that office, I took that was mine, put it in my car, and I waited. I got called up to his office within a week, fired me, said, well, I think, you know, we're making some changes. He just was mad at me because I wasn't doing something illegal, offering him my time without him paying me. So because he had this giant personality, and he was very much like the former guy, he said to the human resources lady, well, go down to Carrie's office with her and help her clean it out. And I said, oh no, I already cleaned it out. There's nothing. I just have my purse. And then he jumped up, and he was in a rage that I was ahead of him. He was in a rage. Get out of here, get out of here. Well, I ended up going to the California Labor Board, and I sued him to the California Labor Board for all the times he insisted that I come to meetings and not be paid. And I won, because if you have a business, you can't mess around with the labor board. You can mess around with an attorney, but not with the labor board. So I got him. I have a neighbor who's a really good actress with a lot of credits. And one day I ran into her on my way to the laundry room, and I said, you know, I'm feeling like you're going to get a movie, and maybe it's a Western. And she got a Western in 2 weeks. Really dear friend who had a long distance relationship, not far, just like from here to maybe 4 hours away. And she couldn't wait for me to meet her boyfriend. Finally, he came to town, and she had a little tiny dinner, and we sat down, and I looked at her boyfriend, and I went, oh my God, this guy is cheating on her. He's got a girlfriend. And it really upset me. And no, I did not tell her. I did not tell her what my thinking was. And a week later, she called me in tears on her birthday. His cell phone was lying open, and there was a text that said, I miss you, something, I don't want to go into it. And in fact, he was, and it started a long breakup. She's fine now. And she said to me, did you know? And I went, yeah, I knew. And she said, how did you know? And I said, he wouldn't look me in the eye. He wasn't the person you described. He wasn't warm. He wasn't engaged. He wasn't interested. He looked guilty. It just came. So about 2.5 to 3 years ago, I called my brother long distance in Chicago because he liked current events. He's very intelligent. And I said, do you know who Kamala Harris is? And he said, no. And I said, well, you need to look her up because I think she's going to be the next president. I think she's going to be president. Well, she didn't make next president. She's vice president. But I think she is going to be the next president. Anyway, it all came past. It was way before the campaign. I just looked at her one day and I went, oh boy, she's it. My brother subsequently passed away. And I think he knew he was dying. He came out to visit me with his wife. He looked really ill. And we did have a really great visit. We healed a lot of our relationship. But when I dropped them off at the airport and my brother and I hugged, I got in the car, I burst out crying, and I said, I'm never going to see him again. And I did not. I never saw him again. I knew. Now, here's an example of psychic coaching with clients. This is what, you're going to be interested. I had a client who, she hated her house. She hated where she's living in Southern California. Miserable. And when I heard about everything, I heard about her husband's personality, she's getting a certification in a certain kind of accounting, which will get her great work, and she's almost there. And she told me about her daughter. Well, I put together this mosaic in my head. I went, this is what you have to do. Now, I don't want to bore you with all the things I said you have to do. You're going to have to look for the house in the area you want, come back to your husband with all the stats, find out the appraisal on the current house, do all the work so your husband doesn't have to do it. Show him there's a profit on selling this house. Show him that you're going to go to work. The world is your oyster when you do accounting and bookkeeping, and she's graduating. So all of this, boom, 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 she has a plan. And that was from hearing what she was so concerned about. I knew who her husband was, and I knew how she was going to have to approach him. My very first psychic coaching client from my left ear is a woman in the Southwest who was in tears. She was really broke. You know, she had a good job. I don't know that the job pays a lot of money. I don't even want to identify her job because I don't want to identify her. But good job that requires lots of training and expertise. But she had about 2 acres of land, and her dream was to become a nonprofit organization and save animals, which she already was doing. But she was out of money for food. She was out of money she couldn't even apply for the nonprofit status. So boom, 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 she's telling me, and I went, okay, you've got to do a GoFundMe. And it terrified her. I said, you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for the animals. And I said, I've done them. Write up. I'll rewrite it. I'll look at it. So she sent me her write-up. I rewrote it because I'm a writer. She put it up there, and she got 3 times the amount she was asking for. And she wrote me on my left ear and said, Carrie, I wanted $700. I got like $1,900. So that was wonderful. I had a client who came in, and he was heartbroken. Now, he came for hypnotherapy, but I just started reading him. He was heartbroken. He told me about this girl, and she was breaking his heart. And my left ear told me, oh my God, this is never going to work. She is the victim of sexual abuse. And I told him, I said, do you know if she was, and he said, he just stopped, and he stared at me, and he said, you're really psychic. But he never came back because I think it scared him. Another my left ear client. Now this isn't interesting because I had a really nice rapport with this gentleman, and we're talking, but I'm not getting the hit. And whoever you talk to that does this kind of work, they will have that. We will all have that. So all of a sudden, this bursts out of my mouth. It wasn't even a thought. I just went, hey, wait a minute. You've been living with a really big idea for a long time. And he went, yeah, I have. So there we go. That was a little tough because that came towards the end of the session. I'm like, where am I going with him? So then that opened us up, and he comes, and we do hypnotherapy, and I'm going to help him make a lot of money through manifestation, not because I'm going to invest, but through manifestation. And then just yesterday, here's a very recent example. An old client of mine who moved out of town and commenced to writing, and she's talented. She's been writing a memoir, but she had a very special interpersonal relationship with someone that's kind of famous, okay? That's all I can say. But she's writing about it and making it more like a novel than reporting the real people and the real everything. And she read some of it to me. And I had that left ear epiphany, because the writing about her personal experience with this individual was inspired. It was great writing. And I said, I hate to tell you this, this is the book you need to be writing. This is the novel. And then go back to your memoir. This is intriguing. I know I'm right. How do you like that? I know I'm right. So, I think I've given you an overview. I hope this has been helpful. I do have a few quotes, even though this is not a politics day. This is by Carl Jung, famous psychologist, and very much sort of the granddaddy of the, the spiritual movement and the shadow side. Brilliant. So he was addressing the Society for Psychical Research in England. Okay, I'm trying to say that. He was addressing the Society for Psychical Research in England. Here's the quote. He said, "I shall not commit the fashionable stupidity of regarding everything I cannot explain as a fraud." It's kind of interesting because one can think about the former guy with this quote, but this was to the psychical research in England way before the former guy. "I shall not commit the fashionable stupidity of regarding everything I cannot explain as a fraud." And then there is a book I love and I recommend to a lot of my clients that are empathic, who may have some psychic ability. And the book is called Listening by a man named Lee Coit, Leecoit. It's a little tiny book and costs practically nothing on Amazon. He wrote, "By recognizing holiness within, it is possible to bypass the static and babble of the stream of consciousness, making contact with an integral part of the human being." I really love this little book, and I want to say that reading it opened up my listening chakras. So there you go. I hope this was enjoyable, informative, interesting. Have a good Sunday, my friends. I'll see you soon. Make peace, make memories. Good seeing ya, as always. Bye-bye.